It's hard to believe, but Keith Richards is nearly 81 years old. You probably know him as the legendary Rolling Stones guitarist who fully embraced the rock and roll lifestyle. But did you know he's also a true survivor? Back in the day, Richards' closest companions were his guitar, drugs, and a lot of alcohol. Remember the time he jumped out of a burning house in Laurel Canyon wearing nothing but a short t-shirt? Or stayed up for 9 straight days during the recording of Some Girls? But he struggled to get rid of all these and still rocks life at this age. How is it possible that he's still alive after all of this? What food secrets and mental strength keep him age-defying? Here's the untold story behind Keith Richards' health, diet, longevity, fitness, and mental strength. Before we dive in, let's take a look back at his journey to recovery. Drug use and arrests. Music journalist Nick Kent once compared Keith Richards to Lord Byron, calling him mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Even Mick Jagger believed that Richards' rebellious image played a part in his descent into drug addiction. By 1994, Richards acknowledged that his reputation had stuck with him. It's like a long shadow. Even though that was nearly 20 years ago, you can't convince some people that I'm not a mad drug addict. Richards' reputation for drug use largely stems from several high-profile busts in the late 1960s and 1970s, as well as his openness about his heroin use and other substances. He faced drug-related charges 5 times, once in 1967, twice in 1973, and again in 1977 and 1978. His first trial in 1967 was the only one that resulted in a prison sentence. It followed a police raid at his Sussex estate, Redlands, where he, Jagger, and some friends were spending the weekend. Richards and Jagger were arrested, sparking both a legal battle and a media frenzy. On June 29, 1967, Jagger was sentenced to 3 months in prison for possessing amphetamines, while Richards received a 1-year sentence for allowing cannabis to be smoked at his property. Jagger was sent to Brixton Prison, while Richards was taken to Wormwood Scrubs. However, both were released on bail the next day pending appeal. Public sympathy quickly shifted in their favor. On July 1st, The Times published an editorial titled, "Who Breaks a Butterfly Upon a Wheel?" criticizing the harsh punishment, which further swayed public opinion. A month later, the appeals court overturned Richards' conviction due to a lack of evidence, and Jagger received a conditional discharge. On February 27, 1977, Keith Richards was staying at the Harbour Castle Hilton in Toronto when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police discovered heroin in his room. He was charged with possession of heroin for the purpose of trafficking, a serious offense under the Narcotic Control Act that carried a potential sentence of 7 years to life in prison. His passport was confiscated, and Richards, along with his family, remained in Toronto until April 1st. He was eventually granted a medical visa to enter the United States for treatment of his heroin addiction. Later, the charge was reduced to simple possession of heroin. By the time his case went to court in October 1978, crowds of 500 to 600 fans gathered outside, chanting, "Free Keith, Free Keith," as he later recalled. Thanks to his devoted fan base, a less-than-aggressive prosecution, and a strong defense, Keith was found guilty but managed to avoid jail. While out on bail, he even partied with Margaret Trudeau, the free-spirited wife of then-Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, who had been spending time with the band. For his community service, Keith was ordered to play a benefit concert for the blind, a tribute to Rita, a fearless blind Stones fan who personally appealed to the judge on his behalf. "She hitchhiked to our shows. The chick was absolutely fearless," Richards wrote in his 2010 memoir, Life. "The love and devotion of fans like Rita still amazes me." For the next 2 years, Richards faced the looming threat of legal consequences. Despite this, he continued to work with the Rolling Stones, recording Some Girls, their best-selling studio album, and embarking on a North American tour. In October 1978, he pleaded guilty to heroin possession and was sentenced to probation for 1 year with the condition that he continue his addiction treatment. Additionally, he was ordered to perform a benefit concert for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind after a blind fan testified on his behalf. Although the prosecution appealed the sentence, Richards fulfilled his obligation by performing 2 benefit concerts at the Oshawa Civic Auditorium in April 1979, featuring both the Rolling Stones and the New Barbarians. In September 1979, the Ontario Court of Appeal upheld the original sentence. In 2016, Richards mentioned that he still occasionally drank alcohol and used hashish and cannabis. However, in 2022, he revealed that he had quit smoking in 2020. No sleep, no problem. Adrenaline is the most amazing thing we have, Keith Richards told an interviewer back in 1992. His stamina and ability to go without sleep are legendary, almost hard to believe. For example, while recording Before They Make Me Run for the Some Girls album in 1978, he went on a 5-day studio marathon. One engineer would flop under the desk for a nap, and I'd bring in the next one to keep going, he recalled in his memoir, Life. But that wasn't even his longest stretch. Richards claims his personal record is 9 days without any sleep. I fell asleep standing up eventually, he bragged. I was just putting a cassette back on the shelf, feeling great. Then I turned around and passed out. I fell right into the edge of a speaker, woke up in a pool of blood and thought, is that claret? Some acid, some cops, and a mystery Mars bar. In 1966, Keith Richards bought Redlands, a charming estate in Sussex, England, for £20,000. But just a few months later, the property became infamous as the scene of one of the most notorious drug busts of the 60s. On that day, Richards, Mick Jagger, and Marianne Faithfull were winding down from an all-day acid trip when the unexpected happened. 20 police officers showed up at the door. Richards, still under the influence, looked outside and saw what he described as a whole lot of dwarves. I'd never been busted before, and I'm still on acid, he later wrote in his memoir, Life. The raid had been tipped off by a tabloid, which got its information from Richards' driver, a betrayal that Richards never forgot, commenting, "He never walked the same again." Despite wild rumors that swirled after the incident, including the infamous and false story that Jagger had been caught in an orgy, licking a Mars bar that had been inserted into Faithfull's vagina, the scene at Redlands was far from scandalous. Faithfull later described it as a scene of pure domesticity. Richards had politely answered the door to the police, who were expecting something far more chaotic. Though the bust led to Richards and Jagger facing drug charges and brief prison sentences, those sentences were eventually overturned. Reflecting on the rumors, Richards said, "How the Mars bar got into the story, I don't know. It shows you what's in people's minds. Father knows best." 5 years after the passing of his father, Bertrand Richards, Keith Richards shared a story that blurred the lines between grief and his notorious sense of humor. In a 2007 interview with New Musical Express, Keith reportedly said, "The strangest thing I've tried to snort? My father. He was cremated, and I couldn't resist grinding him up with a little bit of blow." When asked if anyone might be offended by such an act, he brushed it off, saying, "My dad wouldn't have cared, he didn't give a shit." Although his manager later clarified that Keith was joking, Richards gave some playful details in his autobiography, Life. He recounted how, as he opened the box of his father's ashes, a fine spray blew out onto the table. Rather than simply brushing them away, Keith said he wiped his finger over it and snorted the residue, giving the story an edge of reality only he could pull off. A near-death shocker. Richards has faced death on numerous occasions, but he considers one incident to be his most spectacular close call. On December 3, 1965, while performing The Last Time for a crowd of 5,000 at the Memorial Auditorium in Sacramento, California, a shocking incident occurred. His guitar accidentally touched the microphone stand, sending a flame shooting out and knocking Richards unconscious. Promoter Jeff Hewson feared that Richards had been shot. Attendee Mick Martin recalled, "I literally saw Keith fly into the air backward. I thought he was dead. I was horrified. We all were." As it turned out, Richards had been jolted by an electrical surge from the microphone. He was swiftly carried out on a stretcher with oxygen tubes and rushed to the hospital. Looking back, Richards chuckled at overhearing a doctor say, "Well, they either wake up or they don't." Interestingly, he believes he may have survived the incident thanks to the thick soles of his suede Hush Puppies shoes, which likely helped stop the electrical charge. Remarkably, he was back on stage the very next night. Keith's snowy Swiss ski vacation. "I learned to ski when I was a complete junkie," Richards once proudly declared. In 1972, after being exiled from France due to drug charges and leaving Britain over tax issues, he settled into a chalet in Montreux with Anita Pallenberg and their family. Pallenberg fondly recalled their glamorous life, cruising around in Bentleys and Ferraris with a revolving group of friends. Amidst the partying, Richards also took up skiing, earning a reputation as a thrill-seeker on the slopes. Reflecting on his time in Switzerland, he said, "The reason I made it through his exile was because it was all top-quality stuff. You'll do anything to get your hands on it, and if you have to cross international borders, you better start figuring it out." Naked and afraid. In the late 70s, Richards began dating a Swedish blonde named Lil Wergelis, who he described in his memoir Life as incredibly funny, very witty, and a great lay. One night, while they were staying in a rented house in Laurel Canyon, Wergelis woke him up in the middle of the night to alert him that a fire had broken out in another room. Although the exact cause of the fire remains unclear, Richards mentioned in a 2010 interview with The Telegraph that he might have accidentally started it. "We had just a few seconds to jump out of the window," he recalled. "I was only wearing a short t-shirt and Lil was completely naked." A cousin of Anita Pallenberg came to their rescue and brought them to safety. When they returned to the house the next day, they found a large sign in the charred grass that read, "Thanks a lot, Keith." The only thing that survived the blaze was a chest of drawers containing his passport, favorite tapes, some jewelry, and a gun with 500 rounds of ammunition. After sharing this wild tale, he reflected, "So what am I supposed to take away from my life? That I'm blessed? Some blow, Keith, a baby shower. What could go wrong?" In It's Only Rock and Roll, 30 years. Married to a Rolling Stone, Jo Wood, Ronnie Wood's ex-wife, reminisces about her first encounter with Keith Richards in a Paris hotel room in 1977. Keith reached into his bag and pulled out a silver spoon, a bottle of pills, and a lighter. In seconds, he had crushed some pills with a bit of water, she recalled. Moments later, Richards looked up and greeted her with a grin, saying, "Hello, my dear. I've heard so much about you." Jo was unfazed by his antics. "I adored Keith from the start, which was lucky because he and Ronnie came as a package deal. One of the first things I loved about him was his naughtiness." However, even her admiration was put to the test. At a baby shower in the late 70s, Jo asked Richards not to do cocaine in front of her mother. Unsurprisingly, her request fell on deaf ears. After dinner, Keith suddenly announced, "And now for dessert," before pulling out a large bag of Coke and slamming it on the table. Mortified, her mother quickly left the room. Jo turned to her mom and said, "He's been doing it for years. I can't stop him. It's just his way of life." The Pirate of Weston. After years filled with drugs, wild parties, arrests, and unforgettable antics, the only way left for Keith Richards to truly surprise people was to settle down. In 1991, he did just that, moving with his wife, Patty, and their two young daughters from Manhattan to the tranquil surroundings of Weston, Connecticut. The woods have a primeval serenity about them that would suit the ancestral spirits he shared in life, describing how he relished his peaceful environment and expansive library. In a 2002 interview with Rolling Stone, he painted a picture of his gentlemanly country life. "I'd get up at 7 in the morning. I read a lot. If the weather's nice, I might take a little sail around Long Island Sound. I do a lot of recording in my basement, writing songs and keeping up to speed. I don't have a fixed routine. I wander around the house, wait for the maids to clean the kitchen, then mess it all up again by doing some frying. Patty and I go out once a week if there's something happening in town. Just take the old lady out for dinner with a bunch of flowers and enjoy the rewards." Keith Richards' health and lifestyle changes, living a clean lifestyle. In a recent interview with The Telegraph, Keith Richards opened up about his notorious history with drugs and alcohol, as well as his transition to a cleaner lifestyle. The Rolling Stones guitarist shared, "I gave up cigarettes in 2019 and haven't touched them since. I quit heroin in 1978 and stopped doing cocaine in 2006. I still enjoy a drink occasionally, because I'm not going to heaven anytime soon. But aside from that, I'm trying to enjoy being straight. It's a unique experience for me." Richards, known for his candidness, fondly recalled his past favorite drink, vodka mixed with orange soda, which he referred to as nuclear waste. He emphasized, "I always had just enough," before confirming that he has since given it up. The conversation naturally shifted to the 80-year-old's thoughts on aging and longevity. "I'm blessed, maybe, that physically, this thing just keeps going," he said, referring to his body. "So far, I have no real issues with getting old. Sure, there are some scary things you can see down the road, but you have to get there first. I'm getting used to the idea of being 80, still walking and talking. I find aging to be a fascinating process. But if you didn't, you might as well commit suicide." Richards revealed that he quit smoking 2 years ago, deciding to just put the hammer on it. Despite his notorious past, he now embraces a healthier lifestyle and even advised Eric Clapton, who has been hesitant about vaccines, to do as the doctor says and get the COVID-19 vaccine in 2020. Putting his past habits aside, Richards shows remarkable vitality. Keith Richards says arthritis has opened a whole new door for his music. Despite facing challenges, Keith also deals with hand arthritis, a condition that causes wear and tear on the cartilage in his joints, making everyday tasks like opening jars difficult. Keith Richards has amassed a collection of over 1,000 guitars, though he typically plays just a handful on stage. Despite his enduring love for the instrument, his fingers aren't quite what they used to be due to arthritis. In a recent interview with the BBC, the legendary 80-year-old guitarist shared his experience living with arthritis and how it has impacted his guitar playing. When asked if the inflammation in his joints affects his music, he replied, "Funnily enough, I have no doubt it has, but I don't feel any pain. It's a sort of benign version." The rock icon, whose band is gearing up to release their first album in 18 years, Hackney Diamonds, added, "I think if I've slowed down a bit, it's probably more about age." Despite approaching his 81st birthday on December 18th, Richards expressed a positive outlook on continuing to play. He explained, "What I find interesting is that when I think, I can't quite do that anymore, the guitar shows me another way to approach it. Sometimes just moving a finger a little differently can open up a whole new door." He emphasized, "You're always learning. You never finish school, man." In recent years, Richards has been playing more, especially as the Rolling Stones embarked on their 60th anniversary European tour in 2022 and prepared to release their latest album, Hackney Diamonds, Keith Richards' Workouts. Keith Richards has kicked the cigarette habit and cut back on his alcohol intake. He's hitting the gym for 3 hours a day several times a week and even works with a personal trainer. His routine is packed with weightlifting, focusing on multiple sets and repetitions. You might wonder how much a person can lift after going through so much in life. Richards confidently shared, "There were kids 50 years younger than me, and they give up way before I do. It's the mind that quits long before the body does. My mind won't quit. I'm benching 350 now and deadlifting 500. This level of fitness helps him perform on stage without getting out of breath." Keith's rigorous workout regimen includes not just weight training but also plenty of walking and dance routines. His determination showcases his commitment to staying in good spirits and maintaining his incredible vocal strength. Keith Richards' diet. But there's more to the story. What about his meals? Have you seen Keith Richards in concert recently? Sure, he's getting older and he's put his body through a lot in the past, but he's in better shape than most people half his age. So what does he eat? Keith Richards has never been one for strict diets. For him, food has always been just fuel for the road, and he eats whatever he feels like, whenever he wants. However, he's made some adjustments in recent years to improve his health. So, what does Keith's diet look like now? It's definitely not the typical healthy Mediterranean diet filled with olive oil, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, legumes, and nuts. Instead, he's more into bangers and mash. Think sausages and mashed potatoes, along with burgers, steak, and fish. His diet now resembles that of a top athlete, which is quite a shift from the wild man of rock we all remember. Isn't that surprising? Despite his laid-back approach, Keith understands the importance of breakfast. He kicks off each day with a hearty meal of oatmeal topped with fruits and nuts, eggs with whole wheat toast, and a smoothie packed with protein powder, fruit, and spinach. That sounds like a breakfast fit for champions. This hearty meal keeps him satisfied until lunchtime. That's the beauty of Keith's take on diet. He's always had his unique way of doing things, so it's really no surprise. For lunch, Keith opts for a salad with grilled chicken or fish, soup and salad, or sometimes a sandwich on whole wheat bread to keep things balanced. If he's feeling snacky, he reaches for fruits, nuts, and yogurt, just the right mix to maintain his energy levels and support his post-workout recovery. When it comes to dinner, Keith loves to get creative. He enjoys dishes like salmon with roasted vegetables, stir-fry with tofu or tempeh, and even pasta with marinara sauce. It's a nutrient-rich dinner that helps him stay healthy while maintaining that wild look he's known for. So what's the secret to keeping a slim and active figure like Keith's? It's straightforward. He makes sure to burn off every calorie he consumes. But don't worry, he knows exactly how to do that. Many fans of the Rolling Stones might wonder if it's just exercise that keeps Richards looking trim. While he once lived a more unhealthy lifestyle, he has since made significant changes to his habits, allowing him to stay lean, energetic, healthy, and fit. Keith once recounted how he would stroll down Oxford Street with a slab of hash as big as a skateboard. Alongside it was a cocktail of cocaine and heroin, which he casually referred to as his usual breakfast. But in reality, he gave up those hard substances a long time ago. Keith Richards is renowned not only for his mesmerizing guitar riffs and high-energy performances, but also for his distinctive lifestyle. To him, age is just a number. His commitment to a healthier diet, zest for life, and unwavering willpower continue to inspire his fans. Keith is a living testament to the idea that it's never too late to break bad habits. After the life he's lived, it seems that pursuing your passion from a young age might just contribute to staying healthy in later years. Who knows? As Keith Richards approaches his 81st birthday, his journey toward health and wellness serves as a powerful reminder that it's never too late to embrace change and prioritize well-being. Share your thoughts about his journey in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content like this. I'll see you next time.